Good morning. This is Sigurka. I don't know how you make Sigurka out of that, but that's the name of this beer, Sigurka. Myself and the lads used to drink it in McCarthy's bar here in Sofia, before it became gentrified, because it was only €4 a beer. 4.11 beer. That'd be €2 beer, but it's after becoming gentrified now, so there's no more 4.11 beers in McCarthy's. But that's okay. We drink here in the park now. But we used to call this the hangover beer, but it never bothers me. I don't get hangovers it's not for some reason. My vibration's too high for me to get hangovers. That's the truth. But yeah, in my last video I asked the universe for more pain, and the universe duly obliged. After a sup of vodka, I fell down 2 flights of stairs. And see, the young lads were saying it was in spectacular fashion, but I tell you, one of you fucking hurt. And I was hurt for the last few days now. My back is in shite, but I'm good. One of the young lads gave me a tap of a magic wand. It was a HHC vape, a HHC stick. Now, he said this is fully legal, and I didn't bother my arse looking it up, but it's HHC, and I have to say there's a very, very nice stone off it, a very nice mellow stone, and a very nice stone for walking around on, and it lasts for about 3 or 4 hours, the stone, but a very nice stone. But I have to say, it was really, really, really excellent for pain relief, because like I say, it's an ill wind, it doesn't blow someone some good, so it gave me the perfect opportunity to test this magic wand for pain relief. And I have to say, I felt so good on Saturday. Now, I fell down the stairs Friday night, but I felt so good on Saturday after a few bangs off this, that I was ready to go to the gym. But all I can say is, probably was divine intervention that I didn't, because he was gone Saturday night, and on Sunday I was in shit. I tell you, I was in shit. So, as I say, it was possibly divine intervention that I didn't end up going to the gym on the magic wand, you know. But HHD sticks, I have to say, I highly recommend them. They're a lovely fucking stone, a very nice mellow buzz. He said his was €30 in Athens, so that'll give you just a price point. But I have to say, if it's €30 in Athens, maybe a man should get himself to Athens and get himself one, because there's fair value in it. I'll tell you that, there's value in it. Like, we were pulling out that now a good bit, there's value in it. For €30 for one of these sticks, there's value in it. I'll tell you that. Yeah, they're nice, and really, really good for pain relief. Really good for pain relief. I have to say, I can testify to that, because I was shook, you know. But anyway, no matter, I still had a good weekend. I met a few girls from Yorkshire. They were very nice, and hello to them after watching. Now, I was saying to my young apprentice, there's a young lad in Bleaka Turnova. I call him my apprentice. If you look at, he asked me a question on the video, The Philosophy of Netflix. He asked me a question in relation to the conflicts in Ukraine and Israel. And he asked me for a philosophical perspective, and my perspective from his philosophical point on those wars. And if you look at how well the question is articulated, you can see why I call him my apprentice. He's really, really quick on the uptake of this shit. You know what I mean? But I was trying to think what I'd reply, and I said to him I'd reply in my next video. So I'll give my reply now. My reply, basically, to answer in short, is that I'll give little or no thought to either of those conflicts, because they're absolutely outside my control. So I absolutely couldn't give a it's not that they're absolutely outside my control. So I consider them absolutely none of my business. That is the truth. I consider them absolutely none of my business. But that might be misconstrued as apathy or even worse, nihilism, and nothing could be further from the truth, because that's absolutely not true. Because I have studied the ambiguities of war, because as I said to a few girls before, if you want a tranquil mind, you have to stop imposing your morality on nature, and you have to seek to understand nature. And contentment and a tranquility comes with comes with understanding. It comes with understanding. Because if you're sitting in your room meditating all fucking day long, and then you come out, as one girl found before, and sit beside me, and I'll start talking to you about the ambiguities of war, you run off, look at you fucking monster, you fucking monster. That's not I fucked your tranquil mind in all of about 2 seconds. And if I don't do that, somebody else will do that. Like, you're only going to have to witness some... Listen to Moby extreme ways. I've seen some dirty things. You know, I had to shit down my mind. You know, listen to Extreme Ways, Moby. But anyway, Extreme Ways. But you can't have a tranquil mind unless you seek to understand. Until, yes, you seek to stop putting judgments on everything and seek to understand things. So, for example, seek to understand why have we got this conflict? Why have we got this conflict? What's the ambiguities of war? Why is there war? And this sort of thing. Now, I have done that, and I have, like, I've tried to understand it, say World War II. So I tried to understand it from the perspective of the Germans and Hitler. I tried to understand it from the perspective of the Israelis. I tried to understand it. I tried to see all perspectives and both perspectives of nature, because we have binary opposites. We can't have a war if we don't have thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. If we don't have dialectics, if we don't have opposing forces, we can't have a war in the first place. But we have opposing forces, and they do interact with each other and along with each other in order to determine the nature of change. But once you understand this, then you can go deeper and deeper again, and seeking to understand the different conflicts. Like, for example, Heraclitus said that war is the father of all things, and Hegel said war is progress and peace is stagnation, and I'd agree with this 100%. Now, despite the fact that I'm in no position to establish the facts, I do listen intently if anybody who's anyway intelligent has a few insights or something to say on these conflicts. I do listen to them. My favourite American had a very good viewpoint on America's involvement in Israel, but I'm not going to regurgitate that, because that's his opinion, not mine. I will say I think America are not only terrorists, I think they're terrorists, the biggest terrorists of all. And I will say to America, someone who fucked that word around quite a lot, I will say, what you see in others, again I say to America as a collective, what you see in others, look for in yourself first. What you see in others, look for in yourself first, which is one thing as a collective you're not very good at doing. And I will also say that if I am in a position to determine the nature of change regarding the conflict in Israel, I will back Palestine 110%, because my role is to facilitate an inversion in the hierarchies. And as far as I'm concerned, that would include them. That would include Palestine, an inversion in the hierarchies. And then the oppressed don't become the oppressor. That's what I'll be teaching. But Israel, all I can say to you is, let's go round again. Let's go fucking round again. That's I won't say you don't learn anything, because you do adapt, but I don't know your reasoning, but all I say is let's go round again. So but now you can maybe take from what I mean from my understanding from that. But let's talk something about the ambiguities of war, in order to give you some understanding, because as I say, it's important to understand and seek to understand. So let's talk about the ambiguities of war. The first thing I'll say is, if you have too many seals, too many badgers, too many deer, too many kangaroos, too many rabbits, we cull them. And we cull them to maintain a balance in homeostasis. And that's one of the ambiguities of war. We too are animals. We are animals. Mammals, in fact. Now, some people have an egotistical perspective. Oh, we're not animals. We're an animal. You're an animal. You're an animal. I'm a fucking animal. You're an animal. And then we have to make a distinction between higher and lower animals. But let's not do that now. But anyway, so, you're animals. Now, if there's an imbalance in homeostasis, which there currently is, that has to be addressed. And we have to be culled. And that's one of the ambiguities of war. And that's why I say, you send the cannon fodder to the front line. But if the cannon fodder, can also has a choice in this, and that's why often when I meet people who are going to war, I ask them, do have you made this choice? Have you thought about death? Have you contemplated death? Have you thought about what you're going to do? Have you thought about the fact? Have you contemplated your own death? Have you contemplated the death the death you might be bringing to others? Have you contemplated death? What's your relationship with death? And most of them haven't. But this is what causes all the PTSD. But if you have, and you understand death, and you have a different relationship to death, well, as I do, death doesn't trouble you so much. Neither mine or anybody else's, to be honest with you. That sounds a little harsh, but that's just the truth, and I don't really have the time to go into it. Well, I could, but that would take a long time. But let's just stick with the ambiguities of war. We could also say that war is the fastest catalyst for social reform. It's the fastest catalyst for social reform. Now, other people have other reasons for war as well. For example, laundering money and washing money and getting and finding a home for their useless currency, basically. But there's a lot of let's just stick to the philosophical perspective. We'll go back to Schelling. I was going to do a whole thing on reductionist materialism and German idealism and all this bullshit, but I don't think you're ready for that. I was going to change the format for the podcast, but I like the format that we have now, so let's just keep with that. And I'll tell you about Schelling, just to give you a little bit of an insight. Schelling said like that. Well, first of all, reductionist materialism, that'd be Descartes and Francis Bacon, said that you're a configuration of atoms and I'm a configuration of atoms, and we're just a configuration of atoms that's separate from nature and separate from every other configuration of atoms. The fact that we're conscious, but we're a configuration of atoms, but we can exist separate from nature. And then Kant came along and said that's a load of shite, and he said that there's an empirical self, that would be the configuration of atoms, and the configuration of atoms that you can relate to, and you call I and I call you. So he said all we can experience of ourselves and others is the empirical self. Now, and then there's the transcendental self, but he said we can have no knowledge of this. That's to give you a very quick overview of Kant. But then Fichte, Schelling and Hegel came along and said he was talking through his arse. Now, and I agreed with this. Before I read Fichte, Schelling or Hegel, I said, no, Kant, you're wrong, you're absolutely fucking wrong. You can have knowledge of the transcendental self, and all you have to do is make the right choices and get to know yourself, form a relationship with yourself, become your own best friend. But you can have knowledge of the transcendental self, though it's just a next stage of evolution, basically. But evolution is a process, and we can't all fit through the gate together. But you can have knowledge of the transcendental self. The transcendental self being your soul. But of course, let's just label Kant, Hegel and Schelling and Fichte, let's all just label them insane as well. For such silly talk as the transcendental self and the soul. What the fuck would they know? Some of the greatest minds of our time, what the fuck would they know? But I was going to talk about Schelling. Am I going over fucking time? I was going to talk about Schelling. Now, Schelling said then that because I'm particularly interested in his philosophy because it fits here. Hegel said we're not a part of nature. We're a part of nature and cannot be separate from nature. And he said, and his explanation of war is, he said the fabric of space and time contract or expand and contract. So basically, the fabric of space and time, the fabric of the universe expand and contract. The universe breathes. It's a living, breathing organism. And he posited then that in expansion that we have all development and evolution and forward movement. We have development and pushing forward, new technologies, new evolutionary processes. Basically the world moves forward, and then when it contracts, we have war, we have sickness, we have famine, we have everything that you perceive as negative, or you maybe don't perceive it as positive or negative. I don't put these value judgments on anything, but maybe you do. But everything that people might perceive as negative, this is in the contraction. And then, as I explained in the expansion, we have growth. So basically we could look at this through several other models. We could look at through destruction and creation, ebb and flow, cycles, like basically goes in cycles. But then Schelling also said like that if we apply Newtonian physics to this, basically if A exerts a force on B, B exerts an equal but opposite force on B. But he said this cannot be true. He said, so the expansion must be greater than the contraction. It must be a greater force, or he said because if they were the same force they cancel each other out. And I say that's not true, because I say don't apply Newtonian physics. If A exerts a force on B, but B exerts an equal but opposite force on A, and A uses B's dynamic against it, like a judo throw. Rule number one in the art of war: always use your enemy's dynamic against them. This is how one force becomes greater than the other, but they're equal forces. It's just how one uses the other's dynamic against it, and you have to be conscious of this. I make it off this. Bye.